Hey Borderlands fans! Welcome back to another Borderlands 3 build video. Today we are going to be looking at an Amara build that I believe complements both her skill trees perfectly and a manufacturer. So with that, let's begin our first allegiance build. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cooksey, the game's not even out yet. How can you be thinking about an allegiance build? And that's a fair question, and a question to which my response is, yeah, you're probably right. But regardless, the synergy was too obvious, and so I made this build. So with that out of the way, let's get this video started. Today we are starting in Amara's tree, Fist of the Elements, which is targeted towards boosting damage over time effects and their durations. A prime example of this is the first skill we're picking up, Anima, which is going to do just that, boost the status effect damage and the duration of status effects. Moving to our next couple skills, we're going to grab a powerful combo that will not only allow us to apply two different types of status effect with any Maliwan weapon fired, but also increase the damage of the two effects independently. The two skills that I'm referring to are Infusion and Tempest. The way that I anticipate playing this build is going to be to pick up one of the Maliwan weapons that don't utilize Shock and convert some of that damage to Shock, because Shock is going to be the action skill augment, or damage augment on our action skill. And then with Tempest, we're going to boost the primary damage of our weapon and then the shock damage a little bit more. So we'll be doing 50% more shock damage and 30% base element damage. Now that we are affecting every one of our targets with the status effect, we're going to have these effects spread like a wildfire. See what I did there? Because the skill's called Wildfire, which is probably why they named it that. Okay, wow, that was pretty bad. But let's move on. At this point, we're going to grab Catharsis. This is going to cause an occasional explosion of elemental damage when we kill an enemy. These explosions will deal multiple types of elemental damage as well, because if we're applying we'll say fire damage and shock damage, when the enemy explodes, they will deal fire damage and shock damage. This is going to work really well with our next skill, Conflux. Conflux is a skill that will give us a chance to apply an additional shock status, burn status, or melt status each time we apply a status effect. What my idea with this build would be is to try to add radiation to targets. Then, with the benefits of our earlier skills in this one, targets would explode, creating a radiation cloud and applying both radiation effect and shock effect. And then there is a 35% chance that the target will set on fire or melt, and then there's another 35% chance that the target will begin to melt or burn. This is because of the fact that we apply two status effects. There's two independent chances to apply a third status effect. And then the new target would slowly begin to die. And when they died, because they're radiated, they would explode. And then they would affect nearby targets. And after 8 seconds have passed, Catharsis could proc again. And now we have a Borderlands 3 version of the Bloodsplosion build. Now while we do all this damage, we would like to also stay alive. So I'm going to pick up 5 out of 5 in Sustainment, which is going to give us 20% lifesteal when we deal damage with an elemental weapon, aka any Maliwan weapon. And at this point, we've replicated one of my favorite builds from Borderlands 2. So what's left except for to grab the capstone of this tree, increasing our elemental damage further, and finishing off this tree. At this point, we have a powerful build and 14 skill points left. These points could be used to give us some survivability in the Brawl tree, or we could choose a route that will further the status effect mania that we have started. That's right, I'm talking about rush stacks. I'm going to put 5 out of 5 in Violent Tapestry. With rush stacks, we will be able to gain a 30% increase to our elemental effect chance. For those keeping track at home, this means that we'll be applying status effects with at least 1 in every 3 bullet, but more likely 1 in every 2. In Tier 2 of the Mystical Assault tree, we're going to grab Restless, so we can use our action skill more often, and then, to make this action skill even more better, that's right, I said more better, we're going to grab Ascendant, which is going to buff the bonus of any action skill augment that we choose. So, while we're on the topic of action skills, let's look at our options. So option 1, Phase Grasp. And oh honey, I promise you could do better than this one. Option 2 is the Eternal Fist, also known as Better Than Phase Grasp. This skill will act pretty much the exact same as Phase Grasp, except it now will hunt down a new enemy each time you grasp the phased enemy. Now, this does come with a slightly longer cooldown time, but I promise it's worth it. The next option is Ties That Bind. This option is one of my 2 personal favorites, as it will allow us to link enemies together, causing massive amounts of shared damage between all of them. We all know that this action skill is going to combine well with the Allure augment, so we better grab that too, if we're grabbing this one. Now, if we're only fighting a single baddie instead of many merry minions, we probably want to take Fist over Matter, as this is going to lock him down, and then it's going to summon the wrath of all Amara's ex-boyfriends to beat this guy up, because they're mad she's moved on. 6 arms or so are going to burst out of the ground, and they're going to all-out pummel that guy. Now, if Phase Grasping isn't our style, we have one more good option. This is the other favorite that I mentioned just previously. Deliverance is going to cast an astral projection of ourselves forward towards enemies, and each time that we hit one, projectiles are going to home in on nearby enemies, and this will apply our action skill element damage to the target, and 35% of the time it will add a second one because of the previous skill investment. And with that, you have the build. We have 3 extra points at this time, and I'm thinking that I will put them in Dread and Indiscriminate, but you'll have to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I know this video was a little different, and hopefully it was more enjoyable. So if you liked it, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.